Hey everyone, welcome to a new video, welcome to my channel. My name is Maaike and today we are going to be talking about all things eyeshadow palettes, and that is going to be the theme for the rest of this month over on this channel. I am going to be doing a Shop My Stash and a Get Ready With Me as I normally do, but all other videos that are going live this month are going to be about eyeshadow palettes. So call it August palette month if you'd like, or the August eyeshadow palette extravaganza. Stay tuned because I've got lots more content coming your way this month all about eyeshadow palettes. And because I figured, you know, I love eyeshadow palettes so much, I'm pretty sure that I can come up with one extra video a week. So that's why you're seeing this video on a Saturday, because today is not only August 1st, but I'm also going to be uploading one extra video every single Saturday in August. So you're going to get 4 videos a week over on this channel and 1 video a week on my BookTube channel, which is Floating in Books. If you didn't already know, I also do that. So for today's video, now we have all of the announcements out of the way, I wanted to talk about eyeshadow palettes that I like, but that aren't 100% perfect, where I'm like, it would have been so nice if this one shade, or maybe these 2 shades, would be different. So that's what we are going to be talking about today. I've got 10 eyeshadow palettes for you right here, so let's get started. So the first palette I wanted to mention, I'm just going to go through the stack as it's lying in front of me, and that is the Huda Beauty Amethyst Obsessions little like mini palettes. I love these little Huda Beauty palettes, but a lot of them are not perfect. And I'm using this one as an example because I feel it's the strongest about this one. And this is a really nicely curated 9-pan palette. The main gripe I have with it is that it's not very purple. And the reason why it's not very purple is because you have this shade and this shade, which are both mattes, but they are essentially the same color. When you put this on the eye or whether you put this on the eye, you get exactly the same sort of look. One of them is a bit more mauve, one of them is supposed to perhaps be a little bit more purple, but I feel there isn't much that really ties this palette together and works with this like brighter royal purple that's in here. So what I feel would make this palette a lot more perfect is a matte royal purple that isn't like mauvey or plummy, but that definitely goes more into the true purple realm. And then I feel that as a purple palette, this would work so much better. So yeah, I do enjoy this. I think this is one of the better like amethyst, like gemstone obsessions palettes that she did. The sapphire and the emerald are nice too. Those are the other 2 that I have, but especially the sapphire, I feel there are a couple of dud shades in there that are just not great quality. Whereas with this, I feel the quality is just fine. It's just, if this were a matte royal purple, this would have been the purple palette of my dreams, and right now it's not. So let's talk about Colourpop, because Colourpop has some really lovely eyeshadow palettes, but I feel a palette that could have been more perfect is the Aha Honey by Colourpop. Mine, first of all, came very shattered and broken and a little bit sad looking, so I definitely had to repress 3 of these shimmers because they were just poofing out of the pan. And ever since I did that, it's been doing so much better. So I'm liking it a lot more. My gripe with this, it's all mid-tones. Can we get something that's deeper than this? Like if this shade would have been, because I feel again that this and this is just a little bit similar once you put it on the eye. So if one of these 2 would have been like a darker brown, like a mustardy brown kind of shade, I think this would have been so much better because you would be able to create lots of depth and dimension with this palette. Whereas right now, it's just, you know, it's a yellow palette, so I get it, but it's a bit too yellow almost, if that makes sense. Like you can't really do lots of versatile looks with this palette because it's missing that one shade that can really take this palette from like just all of these midtones to something a bit darker that you can really use to deepen up a look, to take it from day to night. That's what this palette is missing in my opinion. A very recent palette that I've tried is the Juvia's Place Warrior 3 palette, and this I already mentioned in my 10 palette review why I feel this isn't perfect, and it has to do with the amount of shimmers you get in here. I'm a shimmer girl at heart. I prefer shimmers over mattes. There, I said it. But this only has 2 shimmers. So for me, I'm like, And I feel that these shades also don't go together quite well. So what I would want to do is take out this red and put another shimmer in its place, just to give you a little bit more variety, because I feel that these 2 shimmers are very cool toned, but this palette also has a very strong warm tone leaning like mattes in here, and I feel that these 2 shimmers just don't really go with some of the warm tones that are in here. So I would want to put a shimmer in here that can go with these warm tones. So something that goes with the green and the yellow, I think would really make it a lot better. So that's why the Warrior 3 by Juvia's, I get the idea. Those 2 shimmers are really stunning, but I need more. I also have some like more indie brands in here, and one palette that I love, but that I feel is a hair removed from being super perfect, is the Certified Tropical Wonders palette. This is still, till this day, one of my favorite rainbow palettes. It just is, yeah? If you're looking for a good rainbow palette, try this. It's lovely. You get some neutrals, you get a white, you get a black, you get a gray, so you've got something to tie it all together, and then you've got all these lovely, colorful rainbow shades that truly are the full spectrum of the rainbow, except for one. Toucan. It's an orange. It looks a lot more orange on here, but I feel that Toucan isn't as orange as it could have been. I would have preferred this to be a truer orange. It right now is a little bit like brownish, yellowish orange, where it's not truly a blend of red and yellow. I feel it has a neutral hint to it, which makes it super wearable, and it goes really well with these shades here. I think that's also a look that I did, and it was super stunning. But I wish this would have been a better orange, just so we really get these shades, because I feel we get like, you know, we've got some different shades of green, and we get different shades of blue, we get different shades of purple, different shades of red even, but then we don't really have that true orange. Whereas I feel that if you had a true orange and then this murky brown and that yellow, you can create this shade if you had a true orange. So for me, it's one of the best rainbow palettes on the market, but that one little thing. I also have some palettes in here that you can no longer get, but like I mentioned, we're just gonna talk about eyeshadow, and a brand that's been discontinued is Blush Tribe, but I wanted to mention the Layla 2, because Layla 2 is a very pretty all green palette. And the owner of the brand, they're now being, she started a new brand called Miali, I think that's how you pronounce it, Miali Beauty. It's all been rebranded, and no more Blush Tribe, so you can no longer get this. But she, at the time when this was released, said, like, if you have the Asina 2, which I own, you can put the darker greens of that palette with this palette. And that works. That's totally true. It's just that I'm a bit of a fussy eyeshadow user, and I would like to be able to use a palette standalone. And like the Colourpop, honey, this has stunning greens, but they are all brights and midtones. And even the ones that look darker in the pan don't really go on very dark on the eyes. So I feel that what this palette is lacking, even though it's got every green you could possibly want, is dimension. I wish one of those darker greens from the Hasina would have been one of these 2 shades. So one of these 2 mattes, because these 2 also I feel translate very identical once you put them on the lid. So for me, it would have been better if, for instance, this shade would have been like a nice, dark, matte forest green, so you can really get the depth and dimension that also the cover seems to have, because there's a lot more dimension in the cover than you get inside this palette. It's a lot brighter than what the cover might you think it has. Shall we talk about some OG palettes that I have because everybody had them and I didn't want to miss out, but then I ended up not using a whole lot. These are palettes that have they pop up and everyone's like, pan that palette video, or look at what I've panned. It's one of these 2 palettes because everybody loved them, and to me, they're just not perfect. They are good palettes, But for me, for my tastes, I'm missing something. And the first one is the LORAC Pro 1. And this, I've mentioned it before, for me the palette stops here. And the reason why I say that is because these 4 shades, if I use them on my eye, they all look the same. Whether I use slate or deep purple, espresso or black, it just looks like a black on my very pale complexion. So that's why I always say that this is sort of where the palette stops for me. Maybe espresso, but again, I barely use, like really, if you look at which shades I've actually used, it's mainly mauve, garnet, and sable, and light bronze. Like these 4 shades over here. That's what I've been using. But these 4, especially that black, I've never used them. So this is one where I feel that if you're pale like me, it's just not very pale girl friendly. This is great if you have like a medium to deep skin tone, then I think you can make this work. But for me, there's a couple of shades in here. I do the same look with this every single time I reach for it. I'm not gonna lie. And I feel the very similar about this palette, the Chocolate Bar by Too Faced. This was, of course, the palette that everybody wanted at some point in time. As you can see, mine is barely used. And that's because every single look I do with this turns into a smoky eye. I demonstrated that in a 3 looks 1 palette video I think I did last year. And it's not like 3 looks 1 palette videos just don't get a lot of views, so you probably missed it, but I did do that. I'll link it in the eye above in case you're interested. But what I hate about this palette, and why I don't use it, I don't hate it. It doesn't have enough mid-tone shimmers. It's got very pale shimmers, and then a gold. That's it. Everything else is quite dark. I would never use Champagne Truffle on the lid. That to me is just an inner corner highlight. I don't like anything that's this bright all over the lid, especially not in combination with a lot of the deeper tones that are in here. The only shade I truly like to use all over my lid is Marzipan. And that makes for some very limiting looks if you only have one shimmer that you like, if you are a lover of all things shimmer. I have to say that I do like shades like Hazelnut and Haute Chocolate as well. I do really like those shades, but they are quite deep on me. If I put that on, again, it just looks like a smoky eye. I like Gilded Ganache, but again, looks like a smoky eye. What I would like, for me, if I want to go for something very neutral, I would go in with salted caramel, semi-sweet, marzipan, and maybe a bit of milk chocolate, and then champagne truffle in the inner corner. That's a very wearable look for me, but that's the only thing I can do with it. So that's why this is a bit of a regret for sure. More in the category of palettes that you can no longer find, the Naked Smoky. I definitely did rediscover this over the winter time though, you guys. I've always been roasting this palette as being a palette with lovely packaging, but the color story just wasn't for me. And the reason why I feel this color story is still a little bit difficult for me to work with is because it doesn't have a good crease shade for me. So the difference between whiskey and combust, so this brown and this like creamy shade, is too big of a jump. And then we get Password, that's also quite dark. So for me, of course, what I've been doing mostly is that I sort of use these 2 shades to blend with those 2 if I want to make a crease shade. So I can make it work, but it means this palette just isn't perfect enough for me. I would have wanted a shade that's in between these 2 that I can use as a crease shade. Then it would have worked a lot better for me. I was only ever using this to do smoky eyes with these 2 grays. That was the only thing I was doing with it, and the rest of the palette I pretty much ignored. And then at the end of 2019, I just wanted to reach for some of my older palettes and see if I could make them work. And I made it work. I wore this so much over the Christmas period because some of these shimmers are just really, really nicely dimensional, and I was able to make it work. It's just still that crease shade, that one crease shade that I'm missing. And another palette that if you want it, you can still get it. I know that the European Anastasia website still sells this, but this is becoming harder to find, and it's this Subculture palette. This was, of course, the palette that just set the makeup world, it just blew up the makeup world because of the bad quality that people claimed it had. I didn't buy this until later, when it was about to be discontinued. So my palette has a different formula, I know that, and I really like mine. It's just, for someone who loves shimmer, this doesn't have a lot of shimmer. So the way I've been wearing this palette the most is doing a look with the mattes, and then I reach for a multi-chrome or a duochrome by one of the indie brands that I have as a single, and then I can really make it work. But I just feel that the shimmer options you get in this are just super limiting. Adorn is pretty, but it's a bronze. I already have a million bronzes. I don't need this. I wish this one shade would have been something to go with the berries. That's what I'm missing. Because I love Electric, that's a really pretty duochrome, and I love Cube as well, pretty duochrome. But that Adorn shade, and maybe, you know, maybe one of these mattes could have been a shimmer as well. Like, I would have wanted one more shimmer and a different shimmer. So almost perfect, but not quite. And I do really like the quality. This is one of my favorite Anastasia palettes, you guys. Not gonna lie, I love mine. And last but not least is also discontinued. I didn't know this was limited edition until like fairly recently, because you could get this for quite a few months. But the Muerte palette by Melt, I can no longer find this. Apparently it's been discontinued. Such a shame, because this again is such a great palette, save for this shade. I don't like Kalaka, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but this sort of like champagne shade has a very yellow undertone, and I feel it therefore doesn't go with most of what's in here. If this had a bit more white or pink, or if it had been more beige, like more neutral leaning, it would have worked with these warmer plummy shades as well as these cooler teals and greens. But right now, this is just too warm, so I feel it goes with this half of the palette, but not so much this half of the palette. So for me, I like everything that's going on in here, save for this shade. Like this, I just want it to be a different shade. But yeah, this Muerte palette by Melt, it's stunning. You will see this coming up a few more times as the month progresses, because I'm pretty sure I will be featuring this palette in many other videos, because it was definitely one of my favorites that came out at the end of 2019. So yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Those are the 10 palettes that I feel are almost perfect. Leave a comment down below with what you feel are palettes that are almost perfect. If there was like one shade you could tweak, which would it be? Because we all have different preferences. So let's chat about eyeshadow palettes in the comments below, and then I really hope you would like to stay tuned, because I've got lots more eyeshadow palette content coming your way in the month of August. So thank you very much for watching this video. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see all this goodness. Yes, I'm going to be doing an eyeshadow palette collection at the end of this. Don't worry, don't worry. But not until later. We're gonna sort of end with a bang, you could say. All right? So thank you very much for watching. See you in my next one. Bye-bye.